I would definitely come back and do that because the impact on humanity to get rid of
Mhm.
TB, yeah, that would be huge. You don't know what's ahead of you. You have to have some confidence in yourself. And I had confidence that I could figure it out. So that's important as a young person. Don't give up on
You could send a voice note to your 16-year-old self today. So, what would you tell him, and what would you intentionally not tell him?
yourself. That we took 5 years and thousands of patients and it didn't work. Okay, that's research. It doesn't work. Everybody knows that when you start.
One thing that really caught my attention was that you studied economics before pursuing medicine. So, how did that unexpected path shape the way you think about healthcare and research today?
That. Otherwise, I just want to play my guitar and hang out and stuff.
Looking
Yeah.
back, what was that one opportunity or one challenge that completely changed your path?
My sister and I were working on the teddy bears. It was not a plan to do research because it's kind of important to know, like, how does the whole world work?
And if you could solve one global health problem before the end of your career, so what would that problem be and why? Hello everyone, this is Sayyada Ishal Munawar, your host for the White Coat Dream, a podcast that is dedicated to guiding aspiring healthcare professionals towards a future in medicine. In today's episode, I am honored to be joined by Dr. Michael Dunne, an infectious diseases physician and clinical research leader with decades of experience in drug development. Throughout his distinguished career, he has held leadership roles at Pfizer, Bill and Melinda Gates Medical Research Institute, and several leading biotechnological companies, helping advance treatments from infectious diseases that have improved the lives of many patients around the world. Dr. Dunn, thank you so much for joining us today, and it's a true pleasure to welcome you on the White Coat Dream.
Happy to be here.
Thank you. So let's start with the podcast. And I'd like to start at the beginning that when you were like 15 or 16, same age as mine, so did you already imagine yourself as becoming a physician and researcher, or was it a completely different dream back then?
No, it's funny. I always wanted to be a doctor. I don't know where that came from. Even when I was like 10 years old, that's
Oh,
what I wanted to be from. But my sister and I used to have like I would be the surgeon, and she would be the nurse, and we'd be working on these big like teddy bears, and we'd be doing operations on them when we were little. So so yeah, like I don't know why that is, but I always wanted to be a doctor of some kind, physician of some kind. It's just one of those. My father's an engineer, my mother's a musician, so they're all cool. I do a lot of music and stuff like that, but still, I don't know. It was just there. I wanted to do it.
actually, I found this thing really relatable because even me and my brother used to do it when we were like 8 to 10 years old.
Did you do the same thing? It's
Yeah,
so much fun,
I
It's
know, right?
I really love doing
Yes, same.
it.
We
Yeah,
used to
I
do
know.
it.
It's great having brothers. I have two brothers and two sisters, and it's really
Um,
great. To this day, we're on chats together, and it's really great
yes,
seeing
it's
them when
so
they grow
fun.
up. And you learn a lot from your siblings, right? Because you can say silly things to them, and it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm. So, and one thing that really caught my attention was that you studied economics before pursuing medicine. So, how did that unexpected path shape the way you think about healthcare and research today?
Yeah, let me roll that back a little bit. Yes, like so, I wanted to be a doctor. I went to college, did all the stuff that I was getting ready to go. Good, going to do pre med stuff, like you're talking to your friends now, right? Like that. But I also realized that this is an opportunity to learn about the world. Like you have a chance to do stuff. Like you're gonna if you're gonna do med, good. That decision's done. Put that in the box. But you've got other opportunities to learn about the world. And I think you should always be learning about stuff around, especially stuff you don't understand. So when you're like in like grade school or high school, you don't learn about economics. No one teaches you that. And I've always found that kind of annoying, really, because it's kind of important to know, like, how does the whole world work? How does interest rates work? Where's your money? They don't teach you that. So I said, like, I got to learn something about that. So I took a course, an introduction to economics course, simply because I didn't know what that was. I think that's kind of a lesson when you're young. Like when you go to school, learn, like do stuff you don't understand. Like it doesn't help to go to class. It's just something you already know. Oh, you already know that. Don't do that. Do stuff you didn't know anything about. So I did this class, and there was a very famous professor. His name was Robert Eisner. Turned out to be like a super genius, kind of head of the economics section at Northwestern. And like, I'm like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. Like stuff that's so straightforward. I'm like, I want to know more about this. And the guy, it was about the guy too. He was a great professor. He showed up on time. Back in my day, like it was kind of a little loose. He like had a tie and a suit, and he showed up and he had notes and he was organized. So I was like, yeah, that guy. I want to be that guy. And so I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm doing. So like I was going to do my pre-med stuff. So people never understood. It was a little weird applying to med school as an economics major. Like some of the people were like, what? What did you do? Like, but I'm like, no, I did all my tests and my biology and the physics. And all that. I did all of that. It was all good. I did my MCAT. But I'm like, no, this is like this is something that adds to me, and it does. And you were saying, like, does it make a difference about what happens? Yes, because now, I went into pharma. Pharma are the bad guys if you talk to a lot of people because they charge money and they're bad people. No, no, that's the only way the world works. Like we cannot have like you need some private sector support, and I'm not afraid of that, and I know how it works, and I think at the end of the day, it's the best way to get things to people with limited resources. This is not an economics podcast, but I will spend 30 seconds with you to say the whole trick of like economics, how do you get the most value out of the stuff you have? Like how do you most efficiently redistribute resource? That is what economics is about. And the people that benefit the most from that are the people with the lowest means. The poorest people do better if prices of things are lower. But to make that work, you have to have an efficient system upstream that gets them things at prices that they can afford. Yeah, that's what happens. And that's what economics taught me. And that's why I thought, yeah, I could be in the private sector and do research that's good for people because at the end of the day, they bring you great things. And as you're saying, I worked at Pfizer. Holy cow, I learned so much there. It was really great. We put a lot of great drugs on the market. And, I really, I was not afraid of being in that sector, although a lot of my physician colleagues were not sure if I'd lost my mind completely. But no, I think at the end of the day, that's how we get stuff to people, the most efficient way to get stuff to people. And so that was really fun. But I think for people, your young people that are listening to this, like do stuff that's kind of a little scary. Every once in a while, it's okay to do stuff you don't know what you're doing. Okay, do hard things, as they say. Do hard things because that's how you learn. Like that's how you expand your horizons. That's how you integrate things, complicated topics that you would never even thought need to be integrated. For me, it was like, how do I integrate healthcare and economics together in a way that works for people? And that's not a typical path, but do that. Like do hard things. That's my one rule at the end. You're going to ask me a question. Do hard things. Do stuff that you really have no business doing, because that's how you learn. You do it in a structured environment and with
Yes.
people watching you, but do hard
And
things. That's yeah.
and I must say that this is a very important thing that this generation should learn, the youth and the teenagers should learn, that we need to do hard things.
Do hard things, okay?
Hmm.
And like, don't lose your mind or anything like that. I mean, like,
Yeah,
have some coaching and stuff. But if it's something, the things you need to learn are the things you don't understand. There's no point in like going learning things you already know. That's good. That's not really good. So that was to me, that was the economics thing. It's like, yeah, I don't know anything about that. They didn't teach me that. And so like that's an example of that. Do stuff you don't know, because then you'll integrate it into your life and you'll bring a perspective that others may not bring because you're coming to it from another perspective altogether. And that's how the world works, right? We all integrate together because we bring our own views into what we do to make life successful.
that's so true. And so nextly, like you have spent decades working on infectious diseases and drug development. So was there a specific
Yeah.
moment when you realized that this is the work I want to dedicate my life to?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. Um, so I'll detour a little bit. Like, so I liked like taking care of patients, like, as I was saying before, like working in clinics. So, but I also, like as I'm saying, I think you have to like be willing to take on some challenges. So I'll just step back a second. Like I have a kind of a because I did medicine and did all this. So I went to med school. Great. I met my wife there. Really great. Then I went to I did a residency program at a different hospital in Hartford, which was Fab Community Hospital. My wife went to Yale. She's a super genius, so she went to Yale. And then um, but somewhere along the way, they had asked me to there was some problem in the residency program there. So they had a slot open and they asked if I would transfer down to Yale to finish my medicine residency there. I'm like, oh, I really like where I am. I like the people, but I thought I could learn things. I thought it would be fun. So I said yes and I transferred down. So that was hard. But that was like not in the plan, but an opportunity arose and I said, okay, let's try that. That's what I'm also saying to people. You have a plan. Yeah, that lasts about an hour. Like then you have life, right? So I said, yeah, and it was good because we could be the residents together. I really like that. So then I said I always wanted to do infectious diseases. That was going to be the plan. I was going to take a year off because you make like no money when you're a resident and nothing. So like we had to pay rent. So I thought I would take a year. But I'm in the emergency room, and this is a long story, but I'll tell you what. I'm in the emergency room. I'm doing like a lumbar puncture, so I'm like, I got a guy there, and needles, and the curtain opens up, and a guy who was in charge of the pulmonary section said, "Mike, I talked to your wife. You're not doing anything next year. I need you to be a pulmonary fellow." What? Like I'm like in the middle of it. What? But she said, yeah, your wife said you're not doing anything. So I said, oh, okay, I'll do that. So I came a pulmonary fellow because they asked me out of nowhere. But I think the point as being a young person is that, you know, your path is not always clear. Like sometimes opportunities drop that was a very weird thing, but it turned out to be great for me because then I was able to do a clinic in the VA for like 15 years, just taking care of patients because one different path. So I did that, weird, but fun. And then I did the infectious disease thing. And I stayed there and I did that bad boy. So that was fine. Okay. So then I did this. Now in Yale, you have to go into like, you have to do like a research thing. Like they make you do a clinical thing and then some research. So I had no idea what I was doing. So I got called into the head of the infectious disease fellowship program, called me and said, Mike, we need you to work in this lab with this very famous guy, Charlie Janeway. Now, that doesn't mean anything to you. That was like, oh my God, Charlie Janeway, you're kidding. He was like the super smartest guy in the planet. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing in the lab. Yeah, whatever. He wants you to just go in there and like do stuff. And he wants an infectious disease person. There was reasons for that. It's like, okay. So that's again, you see, like somebody said thing. I wasn't on the plan. I don't know what I'm doing in the lab. But I said, okay, if you want me to do it, I'll help. And I got in there and we did the research thing and it was fun, but it was lab research, mice and T cells and stuff like that. It was like bench research. But I really found that I liked the whole idea of the scientific method. Ask a question, do the study, figure out the answer, new question, let's go. That was not on the plan. My sister and I were working on the teddy bears. It was not a plan to do research. But then I'm like, holy cow, I really like that. And how did that happen? Because somebody asked me to do something and they really wanted me to do it. And I thought, okay, I can do that. And then I'm hooked. Then I'm like, I'm doing research. That is what I'm doing. Like all my stuff was clinical. And again, as I was saying, I worked in a pulmonary clinic forever because I love being with patients, but I'm like, I'm going to do research because that's it. Now I'm not doing bench research because I was like the worst lab tech ever. So that wasn't going to happen. But I understood the process, and that was that. And then as it turned out, I knew somebody that was working at Pfizer, which was not far from Yale. It's not about 20 minutes from Yale. So they were starting an infectious disease research section. And I thought, okay. They said, we need someone that knows infectious disease, do clinical. I could do that. But again, someone asked, I said yes, and you try, and there you go. The next thing you know, I'm there 17 years, and it was really great. And we did a lot of cool things. And it was research in the space that I liked, which was patient kind of oriented research as opposed to bench research, which I do like and I read all the time, but that was not my thing. There's much smarter PhD people than me that do that kind of thing. But again, it was like just, opportunities arose because somebody asks you to do something. They had confidence in you. Say, okay, I can try that. That's, I think, important when you're young, because you don't have to know what you're doing. I barely know what I'm doing on any given day. And it's okay. It's, you figure it out on the fly. But I really, that was the pivotal moment that changed me to do research and had nothing to do with me thinking the plan through. I had no plan. Somebody asked me, I stepped up, and then it was clear.
That's actually very inspiring. And every successful career have, many turning points. So looking
Yeah.
back, what was that one opportunity or one challenge that completely changed your path?
I think that thing I'm telling you about, like that, be good in the lab, like do stuff you don't know. I didn't know what I was doing. And I'm like doing research on mice and like things and cell and was, but I think, you don't know what's ahead of you. You have to have some confidence in yourself. And I had confidence that I could figure it out. So that's important as a young person. Don't give up on yourself. Okay. Like yeah, you don't know what you're doing. Like look around the room, half the people don't know what they're doing on any given Tuesday. Okay, so that's what's going on. But it's okay. They're trying, they're getting up. You kind of work on things together. I think, don't sell yourself short. You'll figure it out. Don't you got to like have some rational sense. Like don't do totally crazy things because that won't go anywhere. That will be a disaster. But within bounds, you know, find a way to be successful. Work with other people. Listen a lot. Listen, listen, listen again. That's a big thing. So I manage a lot of people at the end of the day. And one of the management tricks is I try not to say anything. I just listen to people. What's going on? You look sad. What is happening today? And you find out, and then they end up figuring stuff out. And then you say, yeah, that's a good idea. Do that. Listen a lot. But yeah, um, I'm wandering now. I've totally lost track of the question. I think we're in a good place.
Thanks for sharing with us. And
Yeah.
research often takes years before it actually benefits a single patient, right? So during those long periods, how do you stay motivated and focused on the bigger picture that's ahead?
Yes, that's a great question too. So I think you want to know where you're going at the end of the day. Like, what is the end game for the thing you're working on? What is the vision for this thing? I have a new drug. Say it's a phase 1 study. I need to know that the drug gets into people and it gets to the site where it needs to be. That's what it needs to be. But that's going to take me 2 years to get there. You have to break up the thing to the path along the way. You have to write the protocol, draft protocol, 1 million people get involved, final protocol. You have to submit it to the regulatory authorities. You have to get all the investigators. There's steps all along the way, and you don't focus on the end game because you know what the end result is. You just focus on the intermediate steps, and then your day is clear. I know what I'm doing today. I got to get this protocol finalized, talk to these people. So, yeah, and some of these studies take a long, long, long time, like years. Okay, so you have to be able to break it down to little pieces and make it all. But if you're working at a place like, it's like Pfizer, which is such a great place to be, you have 5 projects going at the same time. So it's never like there's only one thing happening. You're like doing 9 things at once, but each project has its thing that's due on Tuesday. Like, okay, what is that? So, you always have a you don't take your mind off the end game, but you don't focus on the end game. Like you focus on this week, I need to do that and that. So, and everything, and just when I'm doing research, everything can't work. Like it cannot all work. What's the point in doing the study if you knew it was going to work? Stuff is not going to work. That's why you do the study. So having a negative result is sometimes as important as having a positive result because, okay, I don't need to put resources into that thing anymore. Go over to this other thing. That's where I can be more efficient about it. It's why we break the whole drug development thing is broken down to little pieces. It's like phase 1 study and then phase 2 and phase 3. Like there's a reason for that because you don't go into the big study until you know what you're doing in the other studies. So yeah, so you have to just break down the project into its smallest pieces, and that's
Yeah,
life at some level.
exactly. Yes.
Life. Like you don't try to solve everything at once. What
Hmm.
can I solve today? And yeah, and if you like on the side, you want to write a book or you want to write a song. Well, you don't write the whole song. You write a little bit of the
Yeah.
song, more of the song, and you put the lyrics like a little bit at a time, and
Yes.
then you get there.
Hmm.
It's overwhelming if you think about just
Hmm.
sitting there and doing the whole thing at once. Do the little bit that works today.
So, was there ever a project, idea, or decision in your career that didn't go as planned? And what did that experience teach you?
Oh, all the time, like things because it's research, right? Research is not if you already knew
Yes.
the answer, you would do the study. So it's supposed to
Hmm.
go bust. And then you learn kind of what you do. Some studies were really huge studies that we took 5 years and thousands of patients, and it didn't work. Okay, that's research. It doesn't work. Everybody knows that when you start. We actually have probabilities of success that we put against programs when they start, and they're not. If we already knew the answer, we wouldn't do it. So things that are going to fail are real. And I think it's disappointing when you work on something and the drug didn't do what it needed to, or you didn't get this, or didn't get approved for that, or blah blah blah. But it's research is about finding out what's real. It's not imaginary stuff anymore. It's like this is real, that is not real. Move on. So I think you learn from your failures. You've probably heard that 100 times, but in research, it's not a failure because you learn don't go there. That doesn't work. That's why you're doing it. That's how we all. That's why society moves forward. We don't do what doesn't work, but someone has to prove that it doesn't work. So
That's a really meaningful thing which you just said. Because failure is a part of our life and we should always try to learn something from it rather than just chasing for success.
Yeah, everything is not going to be so. I mean,
Yes.
so the challenge too is to make sure that you're not betting the farm. Like, don't go like try to break up the impossible questions into smaller pieces, so that if it
Yeah.
doesn't work, it's okay. It doesn't work,
Exactly.
and then I can learn to move forward. So that is kind of a trick, and
Hmm.
that's where like management and research companies gets involved. Like, are we going to bet the farm on this thing or not? And usually you don't want to bet the farm. You just like break it down to smaller pieces and then try to get there. At some point, there's an incremental spend you have to make the
Hmm.
big decisions. But then you've de-risked it relative to other opportunities, and off you go. And research works, it doesn't work, but you always learn,
Yeah.
failure or not, you
Exactly.
always learn. And that's a bit about life. That's life. Like you
True.
learn. Yeah, yeah.
And medicine always highlights success stories. But what is something difficult about healthcare or clinical research that most people don't see?
Um, yeah. So I think just for the clinical research thing, it'll be different. There's dozens and dozens of decisions you have to make along the way to make a project work. It means so many things, right? Just think of the number of you sometimes will have 50 centers, 50 doctors working on a study. Okay, a couple of those centers are going to go sideways. Some bad thing's going to happen. They're not going to do their paperwork. The person. So there, in the every day you come into work and like, okay, who has just fell off the wagon today, and who do I need to work like? So there's always problems like that. Um, but if it's contributing to the final answer to the question, it's okay. Like that's life. You just like it isn't perfect, and you can go. Maybe you could fix some of the problems. When you work in like an organization, and people may, people are people. They're not perfect. They're not all suited to the job they're doing. Sometimes they are, but they're having some personal issues, and the job thing isn't going very well because you're just okay. Like, figure that out. So, I think all of us, whether you're in leadership or you're just part of the team, just look around the room, like, is everyone okay? Kind of thing. That's important in working in projects. Is everybody okay today? Maybe not. Okay. And that can be hard, because all of a sudden you're very distracted by someone else's issues. But that's what we should do. We have to help each other, so you kind of keep an eye for that.
Yeah. And you have helped develop treatments that have impacted countless lives. So, is there one patient story or moment that still stays with you today and reminds you that why you started?
Um, that's a good question, really. So the patient, let me just do that a little differently. So the patient stories that stick with me are probably from when I was working in the taking care of patients in the pulmonary clinic at the Veterans Hospital. And I think, I purposely tried not to get, there's a lot you can do in pulmonary, there's a lot of procedures, but I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to be with people that needed some help with their chronic diseases. And there's some older fellas that I was with, and I just loved we just talked. We just, most of the time with chronic, we just talked. Are you okay? Like, what's happening? And I really loved that. And that's the patient experience that I think is what docs should be available. That is available to you. In the States today, it's getting very complicated because healthcare is people are so busy. There is so much to do. It's very easy to lose the personal contact, and that is a shame. But you just have to fight that, right? Because if you're going to be a doctor, you're doing that because there are people on the other side that need you. And so don't lose that. Don't lose the people connection part. So I think that really that I remember forever. The other thing I think is kind of cool, and me, it's a little different. It's like, so I worked on a lot of drugs, and when you're starting, you're like, I think this could really be important to the way doctors take care of patients. And so there's one particular compound that I worked on that I knew was better than what was out there, and we started this biotech company around it. We got it approved on the market. And now, I was just at a dinner the other day, and an infectious disease doctor that I was working with said, "We put your drug on the formulary and we took the other one off." I'm like, "Yeah, that's right." And that felt really good because you've done something now that other doctors recognize as important. And now there's like literature on this. We're not using this older drug, we're using this new drug. I won't tell you what the drug is because it doesn't really matter. But I think for me, it's more like the patient bit I told you about working in the clinic. That was great. But I think because what I do is more research and it's projects, it's got a bigger scale. I worked on azithromycin, which is like 2 billion people have taken that thing. So like I worked on a lot of different compounds that a lot of people, but I don't see the individual patient thing. That's not my thing. I just see the broader impact on society. But it's really rewarding to see that others in hospitals say, yeah, we should do this and not that. And you feel like, what you've just done is useful. So I think for your people that are listening to this program, it may take a while for what you're doing to actually come back to you and say, yeah, that was good. But you in your heart should know this is what people need. I did a good job. Let's move on. And it's nice when you get the
Yeah.
feedback, but you can't wait for feedback. It may not
Yes.
come and it may not work.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
if you could solve one global health problem before the end of your career, so what would that problem be and why?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. I spent a lot. Yeah, I thought about this a lot. I think we need to eradicate tuberculosis. That is what we need to do on the whole planet. This has been with us forever. And I think, without getting into too many details, we have probably drugs now that can do that with one injection. One injection, we can probably kill that organism. The Gates Foundation is doing a super job on a TB vaccine, which I was part of at the time. It's going to be great. I love vaccines. We got to do more of that. But as an infectious disease doctor, the rule number one is kill the bug. Okay, that is rule one. Okay, and we need that. TB is very hard because it goes dormant in your body, stays there forever, and then it comes out later. So it's a problem. Think of all the people that have tuberculosis, all the famous people that died of tuberculosis, people all over the place that are like in a bed. But I think what we might have now, the first time ever, is something where you can give people an injection with an antibiotic it's been worked on so that it basically circulates for like 3 or 4 months with one injection. So we could do that with people that are testing positive or having been exposed to it and kill the bug. Like that's the rule, kill the bug.
Mm,
And then you've got that organized, you could just eradicate TB from the planet.
yeah.
That's what we need to do. That is the one thing. So I'm happily doing my music now. Like I have stuff on Spotify or on SoundCloud. You can
Yeah,
go
I
listen
read
to
that.
that. Like, you did. I love that. Do that all day. But if I had one more thing that I would do, I would come back and help do that if someone needed me to do that, because that would change the world. And I
Mm,
think we have the tools for the first time ever to be able to do that.
mm,
And I think we could rally people around. It's super expensive to do this stuff, like holy
yeah.
cow, expensive, like hundreds of millions of dollars to do that. So we would have to have some way to make that work. That's always the hard part. And the biotech companies, that was what we. That's the other part of it. How do you get money to do stuff?
Yes.
That's another thing. That's not for the podcast. Um, but I would definitely come back and do that because the impact on humanity to get rid of
Mm,
TB, yeah, that would be huge. And I think we're there. We're so close to that. I can see
yeah.
from I'm a drug development guy, so I can see the end game. Like when we have the tools,
Mm,
that would be unbelievable. But I think it's so great that we as a society are at a point where science and medicine has gotten to the point where we can actually consider that. We can
yeah.
actually think about getting rid of things like
Yeah.
forever. Like we don't want that. Like let's just get together. There's a lot of tension in the
Exactly.
world now, stupid things. We should
Mm.
get together on this and make the world a better place for everybody. And we can do that through medicine and through science.
And it would be a huge, huge success for this entire industry and for humanity.
I think it's yeah. I think you can only do something like that if everybody jumps in, right? You need some pharma.
Exactly.
You need that because you have to make it and test it, and it's expensive, and they could do that.
Mm.
But you need civil society to also be part of the
Yes.
solution in their own ways. That would be important. But think how that brings everybody together. Think about that.
Exactly.
Medicine and
Yes.
science would bring the whole world together to solve a problem that's been with us forever, and that we potentially now have the tools to solve. That's breathtaking.
Mm.
I would come back to do that. Otherwise, I just want to play my guitar and hang out and stuff. But I would come back and put the guitar down for a while and do that job if that was an opportunity out there in the future.
Yeah. And finally, if you could send a voice note to your 16-year-old self today, so what would you tell him and what would you intentionally not tell him? Because he needs to, figure it out himself and learn it out itself.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really important thing. I would think, you want to stretch your do hard things. That's what I would say. Do hard things. Now, don't lose your mind. You got to have a plan, but set your mind on hard things, okay, that you don't think you could do, like you never thought you could get there, and just try to do them. and you'd be surprised what comes around. And it doesn't have to be inside. Like I used to run on the track team in high school. Okay, that was fun. Ran a little circle. It's great. Then I lost my mind and said I'd like to run a marathon. What? Like that was like when I was in my 30s. So I just went out the front door and I started running around and I did a marathon and I ran the Dublin Marathon and I finished, but it was a disaster. It took forever. It was really bad. And then I did it. I said I got to do a better job than that. That was really not good. So then I joined a little team that was doing a charity thing, and I ran the Boston Marathon. So this is not about me doing things, but it's about that was hard. I didn't know what I was doing, but I worked with other people. We raised money, and we ran that. That was a better run. So it's like do hard things. Okay, like do hard things. It won't go well the first time, but you don't. We can do things we don't think we can do. And I just gave you a couple little things there, but it's little things. But it's writing a song and recording, like stuff like it doesn't just start anywhere and start doing stuff. Learn an instrument, like learn another language.
Yes.
I was like, do something athletic that you want to do, run cross country, like just try things. Again, don't lose your
Hmm.
mind. Like you got to start like with simple stuff. I didn't do a good job on the first marathon. I lost my mind, but I'm still here to talk about it. And I think that's what I would tell my 16-year-old self. Like don't you know you know be smart about what you go forward, but don't overthink things. Like
Yes.
it's okay to try things. It's okay to maybe like not quite get there the first few shots on goal, but you need something to focus your day to kind of
Yes.
get going on. Otherwise you're going to wander around and you just do Instagram all day, and that's really no good.
Yeah.
Just do, like have a hard thing
Hmm.
and spend a half an hour doing the hard thing, and then other stuff like falls into place.
Exactly. So
Yeah,
thank you so much for your precious time. And I know that many, many teenagers around the world, whoever see this video, are going to benefit from it because you told some really, really important lessons that we need to learn in our lives, like never giving up, trying out new things, and learning something that we feel that is hard, and figuring out things by ourselves. So that's like really important.
it is important. Yes, it was a pleasure. Thank you for doing this podcast. It's really great that someone like yourself is putting this all together for people.
Pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much for
You're, you're very
attending.
well. Okay. Bye.
Uh, so that's all for today, and have a very nice day ahead.
Thank you too. Would you send me a link to the podcast when you do
Sure,
this?
yes, yes, sure.
That would be great. Thanks again, Michelle. Bye. Say hello to your dad.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye. Take care.
Bye.